When you look at this fruit, do you find yourself confusing it with something else? Potatoes? No. A bunch of grapes? Not quite. So, what exactly is it? These are lanzones. That's what the vendors call them. At first glance, there is nothing about this dusty, leathery skin that suggests dessert. But once you peel it, the deception ends. Inside are translucent, jelly-like segments, glossy, juicy, and perfectly balanced between a quiet sweetness and a clean, sharp tartness. It's the kind of flavor that makes you reach for the next one before you've even finished the first. But where do they come from? And why does this humble-looking fruit command such loyalty from everyone who tastes it? By the end of this video, you'll understand the true nature of the lanzones, the benefits it offers, and I'll give you a way to pick the perfect cluster in just 10 seconds.
Join me as we trace the journey of this tropical fruit on QC Project Simple Things.
Its identity starts with a name, Lanzium domesticum. This fruit grows on a tall tropical tree belonging to the Meliaceae family. If that sounds familiar, it's because this is the mahogany family, the exact same lineage associated with some of the world's most valuable timber. It's a striking contrast, a fruit that looks like a humble, dusty potato, yet shares its DNA with the deep, polished wood found in luxury furniture and grand pianos. But the name you hear depends entirely on where your feet are standing. In the Philippines, it's Lanzones. Across the borders in Malaysia or Indonesia, the language shifts. You'll hear langsat or duku. In Thailand, the sweet, easy-to-peel variety is known as longkong. Same species, but with regional fingerprints, variations shaped by local soil, climate, and generations of growers selecting what tastes best in their corner of the world. This reveals the first quiet truth about the lanzones. It isn't just a random fruit. It's a species that has been adopted, and once something is adopted, it starts traveling through ports, markets, and hands that trade far more than just goods. Long before supermarkets and refrigerated trucks, the lanzones lived a much simpler life. It was a fruit that stayed close to home, grown for families, and sold in local markets that moved to the natural rhythm of the seasons. It stayed local because it had to. The lanzones is notoriously fragile. The moment it leaves the branch, a clock starts ticking. Its skin darkens and its sweetness begins to fade within days. This fragility is what turned the harvest into a signal. In the Philippines, the sight of these golden clusters tells you exactly that autumn has arrived. No calendar needed. Yet, a flavor this clean was too good to stay a local secret. Over centuries, it moved across borders. Southeast Asia was a region of exchange, where traders carried more than just spices. They carried living seeds to new lands. As they took root in different soils, the fruit began to adapt. Names changed as they crossed borders. In some regions, growers favored thin skins for easy peeling. In others, they sought a deeper, concentrated sweetness. Same DNA, but with regional fingerprints shaped by generations of people selecting what tasted best in their corner of the world. In certain communities, this recognition evolves into celebration, parades and mountains of fruit. They don't celebrate because the fruit is rare in the world, but because it is rare in time. And the reason becomes obvious the moment you open one. But there's an art to this. If you're too aggressive, the bitter resin will ruin everything. To get to the prize, you have to know how to reveal it. A cluster of lanzones looks humble, almost boring. They're the size of a grape, crowded together in earthy, dull tones. If you didn't know better, you'd walk right past them. But then, you open one. The skin is leathery, but it gives way easily. It doesn't fight your grip. It just splits, and that's when the fruit changes. Outside, it looked starchy and dry. Inside, it's pure transparency. The segments are glossy, like small bulbs of firm jelly. People compare them to garlic cloves, but only in shape. In every other way, they are the opposite. Cool, sweet, and inviting. The texture is light. The sweetness isn't like candy. It's quiet, followed by a sharp tartness that keeps your palate alert. But there is a game of chance inside each fruit. The larger segments usually hide a bright green seed, vibrant but intensely bitter. The smaller ones are often seedless, offering nothing but pure, clean flavor. There is one more catch. The skin is full of sticky, bitter latex that can ruin the taste if it touches the fruit. It's not a flaw, it's just how the fruit is built. You learn which parts to savor and which to move past. That balance, sweet, sour, and a flash of bitter, is what makes it addictive. Your hands don't want to stop. But when a fruit is this compelling, you don't just keep it as a raw, private pleasure. You start to wonder how else you can capture that flavor. Because the season is short, people have found ways to take that quiet sweetness and push it further, transforming it into something that stays with you long after the harvest is over. The humblest way to eat a lanzones is right there on the street, pulling them from the cluster one by one, thumbing the skin open, and talking while your fingers get tacky with resin. It's a fruit meant for shared moments, for the unhurried rhythm of a busy sidewalk. But seasons are short, and we've always been bad at letting a good thing go. So we find ways to stretch that flavor. We move from just eating to inventing. You'll find the fruit reduced into clear amber syrups or slow-cooked into thick jams that turn a deep, honeyed gold. It's baked into tarts, churned into sorbets, and in some corners, even fermented into a crisp, pale wine. These aren't meant to replace the fresh fruit. They're a way to bottle the harvest before the trees go bare. What's even more interesting is how it works in a savory kitchen. A lanzones isn't always about sweetness. Depending on its ripeness, it carries a sharp, acidic edge. That tartness makes it a perfect natural souring agent for stews and seafood, or a bright addition to fresh salads that vinegar can't match. It's an ingredient that refuses to be put in a box. But once a fruit becomes this central to a life, the conversation always shifts. Is it actually doing us any good, or do we just love the taste? Lanzones has never needed to prove its worth through advertisements or flashy headlines. It doesn't pretend to be a modern miracle food, and that's part of its charm. Nutritionally, it's light, low in calories, with dietary fiber that supports digestion. It offers a steady dose of vitamin C, B vitamins for energy, and a touch of vitamin A. But what does that actually mean? Does low calorie mean you should eat the whole cluster in one sitting? Probably not. Even with something this light, the sweet spot is usually around 10 to 15 fruits a day. Any more, and the natural acidity might start to work against you. Like anything else, it's about the balance of the season. The more revealing story is what people did with the fruit before nutrition labels existed. In local communities, every part of the plant had a role, from crushing seeds for deworming to burning dried skins to keep the mosquitoes away. Modern research doesn't always back these practices in a definitive way, but that's not really the point. The point is that we used to live close enough to the trees to actually notice them. Folk medicine isn't just about cures. It's a record of how long we've been paying attention. And that attention leads to one final truth. You can't appreciate the lanzones all year round because nature simply won't let you. Walk down any air-conditioned grocery aisle today and you're sold a lie of endless summer. Pyramids of apples and perfectly identical bananas sit there under neon lights 365 days a year, pretending seasons don't exist. We've been conditioned to expect everything all the time. The lanzones doesn't care about our convenience. It refuses to play that game. Somewhere between September and November, depending on when the monsoon rains decide to break, the streets of Southeast Asia just erupt with it. Suddenly, every sidewalk vendor, every makeshift tarp, and every wooden cart is overflowing with these pale yellow bunches. It becomes the backdrop of the city. You get so used to the sight of them that you start walking right past, and then, almost overnight, the carts are selling something else. The fruit is just gone. There's no corporate strategy driving this scarcity. It's pure biology. The tree operates on an ancient, non-negotiable rhythm, blooming and dropping its harvest on a schedule that existed long before cold chain shipping or plastic wrap were ever invented. That fleeting window completely changes what the fruit means. A lanzones isn't just a hit of sweet and sour. It is a literal timestamp. When you know something is about to vanish, your relationship with it shifts. You don't take it for granted. You don't casually tell yourself, "I'll grab some next Tuesday." Because by next Tuesday, the branches might be bare. You buy a heavier bag. You peel them with a sense of urgency. The fruit quietly forces you to be present without uttering a single word. And that forced presence brings us to the most immediate problem. If you only have a few short weeks to eat them, you'd better know how to pick a cluster that's actually worth your money. I'm going to give you a 10-second rule to pick the juiciest fruit of this fleeting season. It isn't about luck. It's a quick 3-step ritual. Look, touch, and smell. Look for the outcasts. If the skin is too perfectly clean, it's likely underripe and sour. You want the ones with small brown flecks, sugar spots, that prove the fruit stayed on the branch long enough to develop a soul. Give it a squeeze. It should feel firm but give slightly under your thumb, like a ripe gummy candy. Rock hard means it's not ready. Mushy means it's gone. Smell the stem. You're looking for the faint, clean scent of fresh resin. A tiny, clear bead of sap means it's new. If that resin is white, crusty, and odorless, it's old news. 10 seconds. That's all it takes to ensure that first peel is exactly what you waited all year for. Looking at that yellow-brown cluster again, it's still the same modest fruit. Easy to pass by. Almost invisible. But now, your hands know what's waiting under the skin. You've learned the language of its segments, the balance of light and tart that keeps you reaching for more. You've seen how its name changes across borders, yet its essence stays the same in your palm. And you finally understand why it feels so precious. It refuses to be available every day. The season doesn't lie. It tells us that beauty often lies in the departure. We don't cherish the loss, but we value the fact that its absence proves the moment was real. So next time you see these small potatoes on a vine, don't just ask what they are. Tell yourself, this is the only time of the year when this version of the world exists. Peel one. Take your time. Experience the quiet thrill of tasting something that the calendar will soon take back. Because the secret of a simple thing isn't always in what it is. It's in the when. Have you ever truly tasted the fleeting freshness of a season? Does the Lanzones leave you with a sense of longing? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, tell us what simple thing we should feature in the next video. Your idea might become our next episode.
I am Edward, and this is QC Project Simple Things. Thank you for watching.
Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the simple things in everyday life. Because what you see is never the whole story. There's always something deeper beneath the surface. See you in the next one.